Welcome back to Don Hunter's channel. This is part 2 of the boat tour of Saba 50 Catamaran.
We're going to do a deep dive into all these items in the boat that we did to upgrade for off-grid living.
And remember to check part 1 of the boat tour.
Break your chains off.
We installed the batteries for this upgrade in the chain locker so that it would equalize the weight and offset from everything in the back, and it looks kind of like a chain to the boat. Let's take a look at these batteries that are down here powering all of this boat. 32 cells producing 31 kilowatts of power. Each bank having its own BMS that measures temperature and voltage. It then goes to an independent mechanical switch so I can connect or disconnect it. It has a charge and discharge smart relay. Based on the current and the voltage, I can monitor both the voltage coming in for charging and the voltage amperage going out. Decided this location because I took the wires from the windlass and connected them to the 48 volt bank and then added the windlass separate independent battery.
You know, there were some comments in the first boat tour video where people were telling you that you have sparks on your batteries.
Considering this is a deep dive, let's do just that. Let's take a look. What they were seeing is the independent BMS systems, and there's little LEDs that are flashing, so each cell group can turn another cell on and balance so they keep exact voltage throughout the system. The reason why I went with such a large battery bank is it is the most important system on the boat. It can be charged from the generator, charged from the solar system, which we'll talk later. It can be charged from the wind generators, and it can be charged from the port or starboard engine. So more battery is more life, more longer use of electricity. Let's move over to the windlass, because the windlass is your second best friend, or maybe the anchor and the chain is your best friend, and the windlass becomes your friend to bring it out of the water. We upgraded the chain to a 12 millimeter. We upgraded the anchor from a Rockna 40 to a Rockna 55, and I've added a chain lock system along with the bridle. This anchor system and windlass was then converted and removed from the 12 volt system. I installed an independent battery that runs and is charged off of a DC to DC converter from the 48 volt system. All that in a summary is that this windlass system now is independent of all the other boat items. So if anything dies, everything goes dead, we still have access windlass with its independent battery.
And if you guys curious what this kind of plane noise once in a while, this is Longtails here delivering food and groceries to the island. Isn't that the battery though that also a lot of people commented on the first part of the boat tour saying that it was dangerous, that it was laying by the chain?
We got pistol whipped over that battery laying by the chain for that little tiny moment that it was recorded. So yes, it is in its independent battery box, up in the air, away from the chain. But thanks guys for noticing all of these little details that now you're getting to see.
Somebody has to keep that man in line, and obviously it's not me, it's you guys.
I added a infrared and regular color camera that watches the anchor and the chain, and also an anchor light for those tough anchoring times.
I don't think it was for those tough anchoring times. I think it was so I don't break anything else again.
Being a pilot in the past, it's very important to have instruments at certain levels so you can see things. And this I use for the FLIR night camera that I added for infrared, and also for the anchoring camera. So I can be standing here seeing what's going on with the anchor and watch from the camera.
You know, I was always wondering when I was there on the bow trying to get that anchor up or down, why I'm showing William this, or I'm showing him this, I'm screaming at him, and like he does nothing. Now I'm realizing standing here that you just cannot see anything. All right guys, now let's go and see the brains of this operation. You're looking at them right now.
As I mentioned earlier, the system is 48 volt, but the boat was a 12 volt. So that's quite a challenge. Do you guys want to change everything on your boat? Spend all that money to convert everything from chargers to generators to alternators. Well, what I came up with is a way to take the 48 volt and let that act like a set of solar panels. So the 48 volt system is completely independent, and then it's programmed to charge the 12 volt system. The 12 volt system is running off the Victron as an independent inverter charger system, and instead of the solar charging this during the day, then the 48 volt system charges it day and night. So we really have a backup battery system, and I didn't have to change anything on the boat. The top controller is for the 12 volt, which tells us the current, the amps, the voltage. The servo system below by Victron is providing the information of the 48 volt system, the solar panel charge system, and also I connected all the tanks of the boat so that we can monitor everything from the panel, or we can also tunnel in and we can watch everything that's happening on this boat remote from a phone or from a laptop. The Saba 50 has its DC panel inside, and then all the AC is outside in the engine room because of CE regulation. I also added the Victron battery monitor shunt system. We have the water maker controller, and we have the on-end generator system that is also in this panel, connected as well to the Victron system. Let's do a dive into the brains behind all of this. Not this one.
It was already my joke. I already used it. You can't take my joke and just take it.
This is the other brains.
Ooh, I didn't even know that existed.
This is the 12 volt system. So I have a multi plus 3000. Each one's putting out 120 volts. Combined is 220 volt for the boat system. We have 6 180 amp hour 12 volt lithiums. This is the basic house system. Yana was worried when we were designing the dinghy. She didn't want the battery underneath where she was sitting. And little did she know that she's sitting on lithium every time we eat outside.
You know I'm here, right? Now you're in trouble.
Into the engine room for the rest of this control system. There's a lot of little creature comforts that I added after bouncing around on our old steel motor sailor. So I've added ladders and hold handles and anti-skid. So getting in and out of the engine room when underway does not require an acrobatic feat. So I have an MPPT controller. It's a charge controller for the 4 solar panels on one bank, the 3 solar panels on a separate bank, and then I am using a charge controller for the 48 volt, converting it to the 12 volt, so we effectively have solar all night long. Naturally added components for safety, battery switches, everything on the boat. Although it's automated, I also added manual switches so I can switch batteries and banks on and off. The key item that I'm testing here is for other boaters and other people off-grid, campers, etc. If they already have a 12 volt system, you can convert and add a 48, but you don't have to go through all that price of buying all that extra components and items and change it all over at once. So even if you have a monohull with 12 volt, you can put on a 48 volt system. The cables become very small for running long distances, and now you can complement your system when you want by having the 48 fool your off-grid house or your boat that is actually getting solar at nighttime.
So basically you're saying that the 48 volt system goes into 12 volt system and feeds it instead of a solar.
It's automatic right now. It can feed from the wind generator, it can feed from the solar, it can feed from the batteries into the 12 volt base.
All this power and all this technical stuff just to cook an egg. So we did remove the gas stove from here. It was using propane because we just don't like relying on something that we have to go ashore and get, because in a lot of times when you are living off-grid, there's just no such thing. And we also removed gas oven that was here. It was original gas oven that comes with Saba 50, and that one was removed actually mostly for safety reason other than being self-reliable, because it was sitting on the wooden shelf And when we pulled out the oven, it was all charred. It was literally like micro fires there every time when somebody was cooking. It looked very scary. And William did the whole freaking solar system for one specific need. And that's coffee.
My beautiful wife thinks I did this all for a cup of coffee. Well, she was mistaken. I did all of this for a happy wife. Oh, don't forget the milk!
Milk is definitely sour, so I guess we will take our off-grid dinghy ashore to get some milk.
Yana still isn't used to having milk that is not homogenized, so it only lasts about 5 days. Quite often, I get a cup of cottage cheese and coffee.
Cottage cheese cappuccino.
Like is what we have here. Well, we are getting our second take at a coffee. I'm going to have a nice glass of water. We added the filtering system. We can use the water directly out of the water tank. We have 3 filters, and it is good for drinking, cooking, and all the other things that you would need with fresh water. This Saba 50 came with a Rain Man naked water maker at 70 liters per hour. Quite a large size, 230 volt, runs off of the inverter system. All this battery storage is primarily for safety and getting engines started and getting off of a bad anchorage. But it also provides a lot of creature comforts. And let me start with one of the most important, which is the bedroom. Hey, what are you doing down here?
Enjoying my air conditioning. It's freaking hot. Air conditioning cannot be overestimated on the boat. And if you don't have it, at least in one room, consider yourself screwed.
Most of the times you've got breeze when you're at anchorage, but there's a lot of places that you tuck into a cove for weather, full of mosquitoes. You cannot open a door or a window. They even somehow manage to crawl through screens. So in those cases, flipping that air on at night, taking the humidity out of the air and letting it run gets you fresh, so the next day you can head on for another 3 or 4 day voyage. For those of you who are really curious about air conditioning in your motorhome, in your boat, let us know in the comments below, and if we get enough interest, we might just give you a lot more information. We can run the air in the evening here on-off cycle for approximately 2 weeks without having to have any additional charging system.
You say we can run air for 2 weeks straight? Then why are we running it only at night?
We should always practice off-grid living and use the amenities as an advantage.
Guys, I'm learning a lot in this video myself, and I think this man is in a big trouble.
You know, guys, when you keep saving for your retirement, it's nested away somewhere, and that's for the emergency. That's how I treat batteries. I'm kind of nesting them away for an emergency, because I've learned that on a boat, using water and using air and using power should always be consciousness before you use it. But that doesn't always work for everyone.
They think so.
I'm not air conditioning those guys. This is our boat safety, and I've gotten pretty good at throwing it, but I only have 1 shot, so I've got to be really good.
That's why 10 of them. You can throw them one at a time.
The current boat conditioning design has the 220 volt systems all over the place, and I've been researching, and we will change out the one here in the master cabin to a DC, so that in the event that we had some type of an inverter issue, we can still run the air off of the batteries direct. Another item is the boat did come with a heating system in all the cabins. It's a diesel heater. Hopefully I never have to use that, because being from the north, I don't want to go where it's cold.
Let's go, guys, see the hardtop that I personally didn't want to have, but right now I'm pretty happy that we have it. One of the benefits of the hardtop that I want to mention from start is the fact that you can actually attach sunshade to it. Because when you're living off-grid or at anchorage or just on the boat, man, you get so much sun. And if you guys for 1 nanosecond think that that's how I'm running around on the boat, you're smoking something. I cover myself up from here to my toes, and then I put sunscreen on top.
I actually found this hardtop on the Fontaine Peugeot Facebook page. Shipped it to us here in Phuket, and then I had designed these custom steel posts. support post is hollow. Naturally, we got the wires going all the way down through it. On top is the Starlink and the satellite GPS compass that I added, so I'm no longer relying on the old compass system. It does have a window for looking at the sail. It also came with a sliding hatch so you can access the upper deck. The best part of this unit is when it's raining and it's pouring and you've got sun constantly on you, this little hardtop becomes your best friend. Let's take a walk around the boat and see what we did to make this a lot safer when you're at sea. I started by removing every single stanch around the boat, which actually ended here right at your knee level, which made it very easy to go overboard. I extended them to this height all the way around and then removed the cables and added Dyneema safety line. Added brackets, so we have a life ring on both port and starboard. I also added Dyneema line on both port and starboard side for holding on and also for clipping on a harness going from the back of the boat to the front of the boat. Almost everywhere that you go in Thailand, the reefs are protected, so they're mooring balls. So you end up doing a lot of mooring, and with wind and current, I add a secondary mooring line so Yana can be up here, slide this through the mooring hoop, quickly tie it off to the cleat. Together we can go ahead and hook up the actual mooring system.
I think our mooring solution right now is pretty good. However, I feel like it could be a little better. If you have any knowledge on how to properly moor catamaran on a mooring ball, please let us know in the comments. Any ideas are really welcomed.
Guys, let's now move into the wind and the solar. And remember, this isn't just for boats. It can be for camper, motorhome, off-grid cabin. As you can see, today's pretty calm. And look at what we're doing. We're making 200 watts of power on each wind generator. It's 400 watts of free power. Most days we're at 400 watts per generator. That's 800 watts. And that's doing it and making power day and night. These guys are running day and night and keeping the batteries topped off for the motor, starter, and generator.
And I was always the one who thought that wind generators are pretty damn cool because of how they look, but I have never realized that they actually can save your life when you are at anchor on your boat. One night already here in Thailand, when we didn't have them installed just yet, we woke up to a completely dead boat. And that happened because solar doesn't charge at night. William did have a spare battery charged, so we were lucky. If William wouldn't be that super prepared man, we could have been in bad trouble. We would not be able to start our engine, and then who knows where we would be.
Now what everyone needs to have on their cabin, house, motorhome, regular home, bifacial solar panels. We have 7 of them. And what I love about these, other than the technical detail, is from the bottom, you don't have this ugly white panel under there. Bifacial means that it is charging from both the sun of the top and reflection from the bottom. One item that makes bifacials worth the effort and the cost, they charge much better in hazy days, cloudy days, and overcast days. These are 415 watts each for a little bit under 3,000 watts. That's going into the battery system. A lot of people are still reluctant to go with solar on their homes or wherever they may be, but I can tell you from doing the statistics and now having solar for going on almost 3 years, to wake up in the morning and have free power and not rely on that grid is a different type of feeling. Even if you have a storm the next day and the sun comes out, while the grid is still trying to catch up and fix itself, you're making a nice hot cup of coffee.
If you have fresh milk.
I mentioned earlier about hydrogeneration. The Dinghy has a 48 volt, 8 kilowatt battery system in it. The e-propulsion provides hydrogen. What that means is I can drop the Dinghy down, pull it behind the boat, and it will actually recharge its own battery. I've also connected the Dinghy battery to our battery system complete. So when we're not using the Dinghy can be part of the house system, can be charging and also can be discharging as one with the whole battery system. Let's take this guy to shore and get some milk. chance to see what it's like to deploy this dinghy. We have to get it partially in the water, get the back in the water first, and then release it, and then get the front and be ready to go immediately so we don't smash the crap out of the boat. In reality, whether there's bumpers or not, it still is a pretty difficult task. So we still have to refine that a little bit.
Every time there are big waves or there is high boat traffic, I'm screaming at William saying like, why can't you design something better than this? And he's saying that it doesn't exist yet. I'm sure it exists in his head. So let's write those comments, guys. Otherwise, I'm going to lose a hand or maybe even a leg.
Or more than likely, more gray hair. When I say aluminum, I mean solid marine aluminum and designed with 3 chambers that are watertight and filled with air. So you have a port and starboard chamber, but the biggest secret is that it has a false floor, which is really a deck, and the chamber between the deck and the bottom of the dinghy is also airtight. This dinghy can fill and flood. It doesn't have a drain plug for letting water out. The water actually automatically comes out of these rear scuppers. So there's double scuppers, so when there's water flowing into the dinghy or it's pouring rain, the water just comes out. And now when the dinghy gets under the water level, a little water sometimes might come in, but it just rolls out anyway. Invincible, unsinkable dinghy that even if it hits rocks and was to cut a hole in the side, it still can't sink. We went with the electric option on this dinghy because after all of this work with motors and outboards, and the most thing when you're traveling off grid, the gasoline sucks. If you find it, there's a lot of water, it's dirty. So going with electrical, no gas at all on our boat. We have a 9.9 horsepower and it allows us to go along at about 16 kilometers an hour, something like that. So around maybe 8 knots. It doesn't plane. We don't need a planing dinghy. We need a dinghy to get us from A to B. The battery, we designed it inside of the center console, so the weight is perfectly centered. Current battery system, which is 180 amp hour, lasts us about maybe 2 weeks without a charge. We have a set of port and starboard base plates. So as you're moving along, if you were to have a 20 horsepower motor, this thing will plane immediately and be very stabilized in the waves. Naturally, what would be a dinghy without an anchor locker? Or if this is gas, this is where the gas tank goes. But this is our friend. This little guy has been amazing on our off-grid ventures because I'm no longer worried about blowing a tube out by hitting a rock. This guy sits on the beach, we come back, and off we go.
And what I like about this boat is that we can actually go places. With our inflatable dinghy, I constantly heard, no, we can't go there because there are shells. No, we can't go there because there are rocks. So with this boat, we are going everywhere and there is no excuse for William not to take me ashore.
We could go on and on about this dinghy. If you have an interest, let us know in the comments and we will probably do a separate episode just on this bad boy. So guys, you get to see now what it's like to get even a simple gallon of milk. I know this deep dive covered a lot of details, and if you want an overview, we did do the boat tour touching on some of these things. I could go on and on as an engineer about all the reasons and why, and I want you to ask me why we did a lot of things we did. I love helping people not do the mistakes that we did on our other boat. Yeah, we have Starlink and we have air and we have the amenities. That's not off grid.
That's not off grid. You have internet. You posted a video.
So when you're out here in the middle of a storm, there is no power, there is no water, there is no one here to plug on. We can't look at when the power is going to come back on. It all has to deal with us. In my mind, and what we've learned, that is what off-grid is to us.
Off-grid enough for us.
Like and subscribe and send this to all your techie people and your off-grid people.
And if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, you are in trouble.